In the first 6 months of 2026, I managed to read 61 books, and I want to tell you about all of them, so I'm gonna do that with just one sentence per book. To me, this was the only way that I was gonna be able to talk about all these books without this video being a bajillion hours long. Will these sentences be run on? Perhaps. There'll be a mix of what I thought about them, what the book's about, whatever I'm feeling. Also, should I probably have pulled the books that I owned off my shelf so I could show you? Yes. Did I want to do that? No. Sorry guys. So I have my iPad, I have my notes. Let's get to talking. 61 books in the first 6 months of the year is actually very insane to me. Just the fact that I was able to do that, because I read, I think, 69 books in the entirety of 2025. So I'm already like on track to almost double that. I don't know, I don't want to get cocky, but I'm making very good progress and I'm very happy with my read so far this year. Now, in that first 6 months of the year, my average book rating was 4.4. Now, either I have impeccable taste and intuition and I'm so good at picking out the books I know I'll like, or I'm very easy to please. One or the other. Maybe a bit of both. A thorough coverage of poverty in America, from the governmental structures to the racial and social intersections that uphold systems of poverty. 8 focused chapters that breaks down how Western white feminism upholds systems of white supremacy, and a call to action for the movement to be more open about conversations about race. Covers the escalation and militarization of the police, how policing is really used as a form of social control, and suggestions for social and policy changes in which we can address the root causes and the root issues that policing fails to address. A Sleepless in Seattle inspired rom-com with a great build-up and wonderful cast of characters, but occasionally infuriating male main character in regards to how he communicates. Centers the harsh and brutal realities faced by undocumented immigrants in the United States, peeling back the veil of the American dream with both compassion and some raw journalistic grit. Goes over the harms the rise of white, right-wing Christian nationalism does to multiple facets of American life, but overall lacks a bit of a central argument and a call to action. Argues that organizing and the fight for true liberation must center Black, queer, feminist ideals, emphasizing how centering the experiences of those with overlapping, intersecting identities is the key framework for lasting change. Queer hockey romance with lots of smut and years of slow burn yearning, but translates better on screen in my opinion. Small town mystery with really well crafted characters, but a little bit off-paced with a bit of a lackluster big reveal. Memoir of a Filipino man's experience discovering that he's undocumented and his path towards survival, illuminating the tumultuous relationship that lots of immigrants have with this country. A woman's sister is marrying her ex, and at their destination wedding, she has a deeply romantic whirlwind only for a week romance with his best friend. 2 exes come together to honor their shared mentor, beautifully capturing the challenges that come with grief and different types of loss while rekindling very intentionally their old romance. A standout memoir of one of the founding members of the Black Lives Matter movement, detailing her lived experiences with poverty, policing, state violence, and racism as a Black woman in America. A woman agrees to be her friend's date to 5 weddings so that he can play matchmaker, turning into the perfect setup for a rom-com with amazing banter and a really well-paced romance. The type of literary excellence that makes you want to write an essay, a modern Black woman finds herself getting pulled into the past, into slavery-era antebellum South. A charming and sweet small-town friends-to-lovers romance with a male main character who truly yearns. However, I do think the first few books in the series are necessary to understand the full scope of their relationship. A romance with a very unique meet-cute setup, but a third act conflict that made me want to rip the hair out of my skull so bad that it tainted my opinion of the rest of the book. A very, very deep dive into how the modern US policing system functions as a form of racial social control, and a little bit of historical context into the buildup of modern mass incarceration as well as the war on drugs. A translated Japanese mystery horror about characters discovering the horrible truth behind these weird housing plans that left me sweating and my heart beating very, very fast. A history of the manipulation tactics that the United States used to impose colonialism on the Philippines through traditional food culture, and the long-standing colonial mentality that's left behind. A romance that at its core is about the female main character's self-love and growth journey, but with a male main character who loves her, cares for her, yearns for her, and waits for her in a way that I think every woman deserves. Written by the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, talking about some of the people that he's worked with on death row, and detailing the ways in which the American carceral system is merciless. 2 competing meteorologists with opposite personalities are forced to work together, proving that all a nerdy type A man needs is a loud and unapologetic woman. A really strong work of dystopian fiction with amazingly complex characters and a very unique narrative style that ties in real-life themes of the American carceral system to create this very eerie, near-future dystopian feeling. A very sweet small-town romance with the dating lessons trope, but in general, underdeveloped characters and a third act conflict that did make me roll my eyes. Breaks down how a lot of the issues that are under-acknowledged by white feminist circles are the ones that disproportionately impact women of color, but overall lacked a depth of analysis that I prefer in my nonfiction books. books. A captivating lit fic about how a young woman escapes from her challenging university life by engaging online with a boy band's fandom, and the mysterious life of one of the boys from that boy band. Hot baseball coach plus hot baseball team owner equals super fun, spicy romance that takes you back to the universe of the Windy City series. Written by an OBGYN, this is a collection of stories about different people from all different kinds of walks of life that illuminates the multitude of reasons that could make someone either want or need an abortion and the barriers to accessing that form of healthcare. A very magical, mysterious setting and such a unique narrative style that truly you should just go into this blind and trust me. A solid foundational read into the ways in which authoritarian and right-wing fascist regimes utilize a manipulation of education and history to further their agendas. Friends with benefits to lovers done right, with characters that were deeply romantic, well-suited for each other, and always insisted on communicating. A romance between a book publisher and an author keeping his identity under wraps that made for a really fun start to the book, but underwhelmed me in terms of pacing and progression. A summary cowboy romance that had potential, but attempted to do too much that it under-executed on almost every front. A phenomenal work following the lives of real people in Milwaukee struggling with cycles of poverty and housing, and talking about how we as a society have failed to treat housing as a human right. A really refreshing read on the portions of the Bible that right-wingers and fundamentalists tend to use to justify their bigotry and their hatred, and how in reality, from both an analytical and historical lens, those interpretations tend to be incorrect. Peak contemporary romance, and only Emily Henry could make me think that a man who is chronically late and only ever wears Crocs is one of the most emotionally hot male main characters I have ever read about. Fast-paced and spicy cowboy romance that did start off a little strong, but overall was really well-paced and had a lot more emotional depth than I was anticipating. Heist, found family, magic, a cult classic YA 2010s fantasy for a reason. A collection of stories and teachings that weave together Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer's experiences as both a member of Potawatomi Nation and a botanist, emphasizing a relationship of respect with nature. A classic opposite attracts romance with very endearing characters and the very fun setting of the two main characters' grandparents' senior living neighborhood. Exactly what you want when you think of and crave a spicy cowboy romance, but honestly wasn't very standout to me. As comprehensive an account you can get on 100 years of both the Zionist project and colonial war in Palestine in less than 350 pages. A speculative fiction written in 1993 about 2024 that makes you think, wow, either Octavia E. Butler had incredible intuition and a sense of reading the world, or she had a crystal ball. Magical vet school setting with two rivals coming together to save their world, but overall underdeveloped, oddly paced, and confusing. An absolutely insane feat of research detailing the rise of modern authoritarianism through the lens of the Great Replacement theory, as well as the multiple permutations it has in leaders around the globe. The journey of a girl grieving her late best friend and the slow burn romance she finds in an old friend along the way. A wedding singer who writes personal songs for his clients is struggling in his own love life, but both him and the love interest were both so infuriating and annoying I couldn't root for either of them. A lovely work that the late Dr. Kalanithi left us before his passing. Cowboy romance yet again, but with the most insanely freaked out couple I think I have ever read about in a contemporary romance. A historical fiction that reclaims and retells the suppressed stories of acts of revolt and rebellion by slaves, told through 4 distinct yet interconnected stories. An incredibly endearing and sexy single dad cowboy romance made even better by the relationship being built on a long-time strong friendship. Told as a grandmother telling the story of her life to her granddaughter, this is a story of identity, sisterhood, queer love, and just all of the bumps that come with growing up. Identifies 20 arguments and ideas that prop up modern mass incarceration in America and debunks them. A great primer on what gentrification is, how it emerges in cities, and how it impacts people's lives through case studies done in 4 different major American cities. Depicted grief in such a raw and visceral way, but still managed to create a deeply, deeply romantic love built on friendship and platonic care. A historical account of cases of gender nonconformity through different cultures and periods in history, making the argument that people have lived outside of what we now consider the Western gender binary for far longer than we give them credit for. An epic, fantastical journey that weaved together first, second, and third perspective in a way that was absolutely mind-boggling, but so impressive to read. 2 authors write a trope-filled romance as the same tropes play out in their own lives in the best way possible. A collection of stories of trans and gender nonconforming individuals throughout history, from children and workers to activists and athletes. A Palestinian lawyer tells the story of his late father while reflecting on their strained relationship and their similarities as public figures in Israeli-occupied Palestine. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the 61 books that I read in the first 6 months of 2026 in a nutshell. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.